mess up something? Anyway. Oh, wonderful. Alright. Where were we? Alright. Let me just pull this back up. Restore. Okay, so back to where we were. The gallery's end. Unlit except for a single spotlight, unfurnished except for the defining swath of black velvet and a placard on a little stand. On the pedestal is Galatea. So I'll say, examine Galatea. Though she has her back to you, her head is turned somewhat, offering half a view of cheek and ear. Examine cheek. Tinged a faint crimson. Examine ear. They are shell-like and translucent in the spotlight, a gleaming pure white. So now we can say, ask Galatea again. Or ask Galatea about shotgun, the artist shotgun. Let's try that. About shotgun. He kept it to scare people with. It wasn't for real use. Ask Galatea about scaring? About scare. Let's see if that brings up anything. You can't form your question into words, apparently not. Ask Galatea about, okay, artist. Pygmalion. Look. Let's see. Ooh. Something like that. Hope that's a good like. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? Let's try this. Ask Galatea about art. What do you know about art? In the abstract? She shifts so that she's now standing in profile to you, facing the blank wall. Not much. I've seen very few pieces. Myself and the murals at the airport, and the latter I'm led to believe do not quite count. Okay, ask Galatea about murals. You can't form your question into words. He used to talk about his muses, she says, evidently following on her own train of thought. I didn't know for the longest time what he was talking about. In fact, I still don't really understand. I never saw them. If they were in the studio with us, they never showed themselves. Okay, ask Galatea about muses. What did he tell you about the muses? An artist's idea of his own inspiration is usually fascinating, though sadly incomplete. He said that they were the only gods who had not deserted him entirely. He told me that they gave him the means to face the other forms of madness, and though I sometimes wondered what that meant, I'm glad he felt so. Okay, let's ask Galatea about madness. Artist madness. This is a great game. There are 4 sorts of madness that the gods send, she says. The madness of drink, that's from Dionysus. The madness of prophecy, which is of Apollo. The madness of love, which comes from Aphrodite. And the madness of creation, which is the inspiration of the muses. A wry half-smile. To the best of my knowledge, he did not have a drinking problem. Okay, ask Galatea about drinking. Do you ever drink? No, I don't eat or drink. Okay, ask Galatea about feeling. My sense of touch is fairly complete, as I understand the details. Heat and cold, pressure and pain, texture, everything I've heard anyone describe at least. Let's try touch Galatea. You put a hand on her shoulder. The skin is smooth and warm, though it lacks the velvety finish of a vintage hazer. Hazar? There are a lot of imaginary artists in this one. Okay, and now, because of this game and how it is, we can say, think about Hazar. Ah, Hazar, the first animate you ever saw was a Scheherazade. Groundbreaking. And then we can say, think about Scheherazade. Scheherazade? Then, Hazar, the first animate you ever saw was a Scheherazade. Groundbreaking. Okay, think about animates. How about that? Ah, here we are. Seems these days you don't think of anything else. Sometimes when you're in the middle of a conversation with a real person, you find yourself mentally critiquing their dialogue design, or wishing that someone had taken a little more care with skin tone. A little twisted maybe, but the study of animate design has actually led to a new understanding of how conversational pragmatics work. You only realize how many rules govern an interaction when you see them violated. Very interesting. And doesn't that dovetail with what this game is? Because it's all about commands and responses and the grammar therein. I don't know, sort of the, again, the rules are violated, so there aren't any options for the question that you're asking. You're supposed to figure something out, but you don't know what. Very interesting. So you can say, think about art. Just why not? We've already been there. Sheer magic. Oh, let's see. Oh, but it changes. See, this is what I love about this game. So much thought went into this. Emily Short is brilliant, by the way. That's the author of this. You studied art history in school, of course, but most of it left you cold. Paintings, as much barrier as window. Inviting but inaccessible. Sculpture, a little closer, but still nothing you could interact with. The play between design and story, shape and movement, the artist's conception and the viewer's desire. That's what fascinates you. That and the sheer magic of a good animate. And all she claims to know of art is a mural at the airport? Pity. It would not have been out of place, considering her supposed backstory, to give her a few remarks on sculpture, or perhaps some thoughts on the relationship of art and viewer. I think that's a hint. This was also what's so interesting about game design. Like, how do you lead someone to do the correct, or the thing that is ultimately the task? Half of it is figuring out what the actual goal is. I think, in the best games, anyway. Okay, so we'll say ask Galatea, if this wants to spell Galatea. Ask Galatea about viewer. I don't know if that'll even be anything, we'll see. You pause, not quite certain where to go with this question. A pause. You know that you're here to be looked at, then. I don't mind being seen, but I was made to be viewed by one person only, not by hordes of strangers. Ooh, interesting. Ask about being viewed. Okay, ask Galatea. Okay, well, let's try that one again. Ask about viewer. Have others... You're the first to come around the corner, she says, before you have a chance to finish the thought. But the gallery owners told me what I could expect. To be stared at, to be spoken of as though I weren't present. I think I can relate. Okay, ask Galatea. Let's just see what else she has to say about viewer. Oh, same thing. Oh, let's ask Galatea about sculpture. How about that? Again, if this wants to actually spell sculpture. What do you know about sculpture, you ask? What, you think because I am a statue, I'm an expert? I've barely seen anything but myself, only the plaster model that my artist used to plan me out. There's no color in her voice at all. I think he had some other pieces that he'd worked on around the studio, but I never got to see them. By the time my site was fully developed, they were gone. Darling, I've already apologized for that. If it's not good enough for you, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing I can say to convince you. I've explained myself as best as I can, and I don't know. Why don't you tell me what you would like me to say, so that you'll be convinced? And then I'll say it, and then you still won't be convinced. I've explained this. People did not understand my meaning. It was not meant to be hateful. I've apologized on Twitter, on Periscope, and on here. So, at this point, if that's not good enough for you, then maybe it's just not good enough. Maybe nothing will be good enough. And maybe this kind of behavior is why people tend to say that Periscope tends to carry out witch hunts, because nothing I say at this point will be good enough. Again, that's a bit alarmist of you to say. And I'll hide chat. You can say whatever you want. I'm really just here to do this and to share something awesome, because I have explained myself many times over. So after that, another brief interruption. I'll hide this chat. Thank you. My pride, my friends. Who were my friends? Darling. Who were my friends? Who left me? Is my pride worth it? I've explained myself. Nothing I say would be good enough. I don't know. You want me to break down in tears and then people can say that I'm faking that? What do you want from me? Really? What would make you satisfied? That's the question I have for you. What would make you satisfied at this point? Did I say that? Did I say that? In fact, I said that before I realized that people had died. So I certainly didn't mean that. But does that matter at this point? No, you've already decided that that's what I've said, even though it wasn't what I've said. Anyway, I'm about to hide the chat, so thank you very much for being here. I don't know what you want from me, but whatever it is that you need, I hope you find it. Alright? Great. I'm about to hide this now. Thank you. Anyway. Sorry for anyone who actually wanted to talk to me, but I've explained this many times over at this point. It was really something that was taken out of context by someone who didn't know what I was talking about, and, you know, I had a pretty stressful weekend, so shit happens. What can I say? I've apologized. It's not sincere enough. I really don't know what else I can do. So I'm going to move on now. Thank you. Okay, so let's say, ask Galatea about sight. About sight. When did you first begin to see, you ask? Was it when your eyes were finished, or could you somehow see before that? Before that, she says, certainly before he began to drill in the corners. It was a gradual thing. Everything was dim and shadowed, and it grew brighter and sharper the closer he came to the surface of my eyes, until I could recognize colors and know his face. Let's ask Galatea about his face. About his face, sorry. It just said, face, and it's a bit confusing. She just shrugs. Okay. Ask Galatea about eyes, I guess. She shrugs. Is there some particular aspect that you're interested in? Because you've already heard my basic take on that subject. Okay, It's always good to go back to the artist. So, ask Galatea about artist. Okay, ask. You can't form your words into. You can't form your question into words. Well, that's great. Ask Galatea about. Well, let's say being viewed. Let's see if that gives us a different response from. Ask Galatea about being viewed. No, nothing. Ask Galatea about viewing? Okay, well, we'll try this. I keep saying you can't form your question into words. See, so the rules are being violated, but I'm not sure how and what direction I'm supposed to go in. So it's so fascinating about this game. About Pygmalion. Also, I love how this is based on a Greek myth. It's beautiful. I don't know. Okay, we'll just say look. The gallery's end. Unlit except for a single spotlight. Unfurnished except for the defining swath of black velvet. On a placard on a little stand on the pedestal is Galatea. Let's examine placard again. Let's see. Galatea, white Thasos marble, non-commissioned by the late Pygmalion of Cyprus. The artist has since committed suicide. Originally not inanimate, the waking of this piece from its natural state remains unexplained. Okay, so... Okay, let's try ask Galatea about suicide. Let's see if she knows what happened to the artist. She clearly doesn't know what you're talking about. Okay, well, we'll just say examine Galatea. How about that? Her body may be turned towards you, but she still won't look at you. Her gaze is fixed somewhere on the blank wall. Her patrician nose, the slight compression of the mouth, the line of slender throat and chin, show sharp and cold against the velvet drapery. Let's say examine face. A fine architecture of chin and cheekbone, brow and nose. If there is vulnerability or the hint of a flaw, it lingers in her mouth and at the edges of her eyes. She looks a bit blank, as though caught up in some internal thought. Her focus doesn't seem to be on you. Let's try thinking about Pygmalion. I've never done that one. You've no opinions on the subject. Okay, let's think about Galatea. A bit of an enigma, really. A complex piece by someone you've never heard of, which suggests a pseudonym or perhaps a hoax, except of course that she doesn't remind you of the work of anyone in particular. The story focusing reminds you of victim. There are superficial resemblances here and there. On the whole, though, she's quite unique. Think about victim. Gloria del Tredici is not your favorite artist. Okay, well, think about favorite artist. Let's try that. You've no opinions on the subject. Well, shit. Okay, look. Okay, on the pedestal is Galatea. Examine Galatea again. Okay, let's say, I don't know, examine drapery. Velvet drapery. We can't say any such thing. It says her body may be turned towards you, but she still won't look at you. Her gaze is fixed somewhere on the blank wall. Her patrician nose, the slight compression of the mouth, the line of slender throat and chin, show sharp and cold against the velvet drapery. Maybe examine body? We'll see what this gets. You can't see any such thing. Okay, ask Galatea. How about ask Galatea about touch? How about that? Pretty much exhausted that topic. Well, shit. Oh, you know what? We'll see if there's anything else about the muses. Ask Galatea about muses. Ah, I've told you all I know about it, she comments. You feel a twinge of disappointment. Other things about this piece are so promising. The meticulous attention to detail on the body, the delicacy of the facial expressions, the variability of mood. There are those who would call that inconsistency or lack of a coherent artistic vision, but you've seen too many pieces stereotypes made animate. The hint of instability, but no piece is going to get a serious critical reception with such a pathetic database. And that's that. Okay, look. So, on the pedestal is Galatea. Oh, you know what? Ask Galatea about gods. Galatea about gods. That was interesting. Do you believe in God, or gods, you ask? Or universal forces? He told me there are gods, like the ones who lived on Thasos, where I was quarried, or on the citadels of the old cities, or in the sea. He told me stories about them, their exploits, and how they went to war and how they fell in love. You take a deep breath. There were nights when he would pour out the first of the wine to one of them, to the Muses, to Aphrodite, the Cyprian, to Apollo. He said prayers, and he made me be silent. To say the wrong thing to the gods, he said, is at least as bad as not to speak to them at all. Okay, here we go. So, maybe ask Galatea about prayers. Oh? I don't know that I can exactly offer a full explanation of his beliefs, she remarks. There's no color in her voice at all. But to put it simply, he told me once that all the gods require our observance, since to ignore them is to bring down anger, but that some gods are special to some men. Also, that if you want something specific, you must ask the right one. Oh, you know what? I forgot a command that we can use here. Tell. We can say, or, well, you know what? Let's ask it more, though. But, yeah, we'll say, like, tell Galatea about victim. We'll do that in a second, though. Ask Galatea about the, asking right God, ask Galatea about the right God. We'll try that. You can't form your question into words. Okay, how about just ask Galatea about beliefs? I didn't go to church, if that's what you mean. He had no use for that. We could hear the ringing of the church bell up at the studio, but he always said that was a sop for people who didn't dare take on the gods in their raw form, as pagan and unkind. A wry smile crosses her face. As you may have gathered, he wasn't exactly an optimist. Okay, ask Galatea about, I don't know. Where could this go? Pagans, I guess? Or as about pagan? We'll just see. No, nothing. Okay. Okay, ask Galatea about church. There's a subject he avoided quite thoroughly. Okay, we'll say, tell Galatea about the piece victim. That this keeps referring us back to. Before you can tell her anything about animates, you're going to have to explain the nature of this exhibit. It's not clear that she understands that point. Ah, interesting. Tell Galatea about exhibit. Here we are. You do realize what kind of exhibition this is, right? You ask. What kind of exhibition? She asks stupidly. It's an art exhibition. I'm art. It's an artificial intelligence exhibit. The artists, usually teams of artists, actually, construct bodies like yours, although I have to say that yours shows an unusually high degree of precision. And then they put in machinery to animate the bodies, and programming to teach the bodies how to speak to the viewers. It's a kind of game. I try to see if I can trick you into acting in a way that a real person wouldn't act, and most of the pieces have some kind of backstory and personality. It's a kind of art, as well as a technical skill, sort of like this game. So I'm a machine, according to you. The air conditioning hums, sending a ripple through the velvet curtain. Essentially, you admit. So now, we can probably tell Galatea about Victim. Victim. There's a piece by Gloria del Tredici. It's in the Tate Artificial now, called Victim. Why do you ask me? Her voice is hard. All I can tell you is whatever has been fed into my database, right? My collection of facts to share? Damn, you've reached a stage where she's simply uncooperative, it would seem. It annoys you extremely when artists create pieces that can get into this state. She watches you coldly while you ponder this point. When you turn and walk away, she says nothing at all. The end. Would you like to restart, restore a saved game, or quit? I'll say restart. See, this is the thing about this game. There are a million different endings. It's fascinating. Let's say restart. We'll try a clean slate. Okay, you come around a corner, away from the noise of the opening. There is only one exhibit. She stands in the spotlight, with her back to you, a sweep of pale hair on paler skin, a column of emerald silk that ends in a pool at her feet. She might be the model in a perfume ad, a trophy wife at a formal gathering, one of the guests at this very opening, standing on an empty pedestal in some ironic act of artistic deconstruction. You hesitate, about to turn away. Her hand balls into a fist. They told me you were coming. The gallery's end. Unlit, except for the single spotlight, unfurnished, except for the defining swath of black velvet, and a placard on a little stand. On the pedestal is Galatea. Okay, so we'll start with examine Galatea. She is facing away from you. You cannot see her face, only her hair, and the line of her shoulder. It's hard to know what she's looking at, the velvet backdrop, if she has her eyes open, but there's not much to see in that. Mostly it is obvious she's not looking at you. Her green dress widens out at the knee, falling over the pedestal on which she stands in a way that would probably be very awkward if she wanted to move. Let's try ask Galatea about moving. You can't form your question into words. You might try speaking to me, she prompts. It's not polite merely to stare, and I've gotten very bored standing here. An attempt to engage the audience, the proactive element. You frame the words for your review, but you find that you can't get as far as a complete first sentence. There's something more here, anxious, chilly, visceral. Better pay attention. Okay, so we'll try examining placard again, because we can't ask about the artist until we examine the placard. Large cream letters on a black ground. Galatea, white Thasos marble, non-commissioned by the Lake Pygmalion of Cyprus. The artist has since committed suicide. Originally not inanimate, the waking of this piece from its natural state remains unexplained. Let's try ask Galatea about Thasos. That's a different one. About Thasos. It's an island off the Chersonese. No idea. Settled long ago with the sanctuaries of the old gods still on it. A pause. I don't remember it, she adds as an afterthought, but he used to tell me about it. Okay, ask about old gods. Okay, I can't form your question to words. Okay, ask about him. Her head moves, as though she were going to turn and look at you properly, but then she thinks better of it. I don't know where he is, she remarks, or who or what for that matter. He sold me immediately after my waking. While he was carving me, there was no strangeness, but afterwards. Say, ask about carving. Do you remember being carved, you ask? You become aware of her breathing, the slight expansion of her ribs, the soft exhalation, natural and yet somehow studied. Better, I dare say, than you remember being born, she replies, her voice low and mocking. Ask about being carved. Oh, you can't form your question into words. He used to talk to me while he worked, not realizing, I think, that I could hear. He told me things he would never have told to anyone else. Ooh. Ask about secrets. That's how you know I run a gossip channel. Ask about secrets. So, what did he tell you that was private? Oh, things about growing up, how he felt uncomfortable and left out and didn't get along with the other children. He used to pretend that he was the god Dionysus in disguise. Do you know the story of Dionysus and Pentheus? Or Dionysus with the pirates? She chuckles, a low sound that sets your neck prickling. He always wins, taking a terrible revenge on those who do not recognize him. Interesting. Okay, ask about revenge. How about that? Seems like a good conversation starter. Can't form your question into words, never mind. Okay, ask about Dionysus, I suppose. Dionysus. Nope, not that. Not pirates. Wait, in this program, if you touch you can just kind of touch the text word, so sometimes you hit the wrong one. Tell me about Dionysus. She turns, not her whole body, just her head, so that you can see one ear behind the cascade of hair. God of wine and drama, she replies smoothly, and a dangerous Eastern influence as well. Elusive, able to create illusions, a breaker of bonds, a bringer of freedom, a force for anarchy and the end of social order. Oh, I know. Ask Galatea about illusions. How about that? Illusions? Perhaps illusion is not quite the right word. Many of his tricks involve a shift in perception. What you see is a spiritual truth to which the overly literal are blind. But there's considerable danger involved. If you don't treat the vision with respect, the result is not understanding, but insanity. Okay, so ask Galatea about insanity. Oh, there are 4 sorts of madness that the gods send, she says. The madness of drink from Dionysus, the madness of prophecy, which is of Apollo, the madness of love, which comes from Aphrodite, and the madness of creation, which is the inspiration of the muses. A pause. To the best of my knowledge, he did not have a drinking problem. Okay, let's say, ask Galatea about Apollo. What did he tell you about Apollo? That he is an archer, of course, she says, and a prophet, the god of the sun, the representative of civilized song, the opposite of Dionysus. A pause. He also warned me not to trust Apollo. He said he'd tried and found it ineffective. Civilization only goes so deep, and under that is mere anarchy, as he put it. As an apparent afterthought, she adds, Dionysus presided at Delphi 3 months of the year, you know. Apollo did not hold even his most sacred precinct, absolutely. Good point. Maybe ask about Delphi? Let's try that. Ask Galatea about Delphi. I don't know. Delphi? What was that? That was the oracle of the Pythia, where she sat muttering gibberish into the smoke so that the priests could make hexameters out of what she said. Ask Galatea about hexameters. Oh, okay. The meter used by, for example, Homer. Alright. we're getting somewhere. Ask Galatea about Homer. She plainly takes your mythological ignorance in stride by this point. An epic poet, she says. Oh, I know. Ask Galatea about poetry. If it wants to cooperate. There we go. You can't form your question to words, so nothing about poetry, okay. Oh, okay, how about ask Galatea about Oracle? Ask Galatea about Oracle. I've said everything I know. You feel a twinge of disappointment. Other things about this piece are so promising. The meticulous attention to detail on the body, the delicacy of the facial expressions, the variability of mood. There are those who would call that inconsistency or lack of a coherent artistic vision. But you've seen too many pieces stereotypes made animate, the hint of instability. But no piece is going to get a serious critical reception with such a pathetic database, and that's that. Oh, I know. Okay, who else did she mention? Aphrodite. Okay. Ask Galatea about Aphrodite. What do you know of Aphrodite? There is a long silence, a stillness in the room. The goddess of love, she says finally, and the source of all generation. Right, it didn't take her that long to come up with that textbook definition. Glitch in the neural programming, perhaps? Let's ask that again. Ask Galatea about Aphrodite. Well, she sounds like a harmless and pleasant sort. She turns so that she is looking at you straight on. Level gaze, smoky eyes, brows pale and washed out in the light. Not her most beautiful angle, which might be why she avoids it. Pleasant and harmless, she repeats in a dull voice. She's the one who sent Helen to Troy. She's the one who made Zeus chase after all sorts of mortal women, to their disadvantage in Hera's fury. If it weren't for her and her tricks and her cruelty... She pauses, her eyes flickering up to something behind you. You turn. It is unwise, says the newcomer, to rail against the gods, especially against those who have done you favors. She walks towards where you are standing. From a distance, she looks like one of the gallery owners, but when she is beside you, you realize that this is an illusion. Close up, you notice how tall she is, and how the light seems to follow her of its own accord. There's a smell of something sweet and unfamiliar. You move back, nervous, but the goddess seems hardly to notice you. She touches Galatea with one finger, and instantly the life is gone from her. There is only a statue on the pedestal, perfect, still. You killed her, you exclaim, horrified. The golden gaze turns on you, lovely, quelling. Miserable, you fall silent. The end. Okay, I think that's probably enough for tonight. I went over a bit, but hopefully that makes up for our interruption earlier. And there are so many endings and so many different combinations and so many different directions that the conversation can go in this game. And I think it is an amazing introduction and a fantastic example of what interactive fiction can be, and how engrossing and how fascinating it can be. And one thing I really love about all of this is it's so evocative. The writing's amazing. The actual programming is amazing. And I swear, I have images of games that are interactive fiction that I don't have any picture for other than the writing, and I forget that. I imagine what this game is like. So, I don't know. I just wanted to share this little genre that a lot of people don't really know about. Sorry I hid the chat, but I really just want to focus on this cool stuff because it is awesome and it deserves to be shared and it deserves to be appreciated. So I really hope that people understand that. So again, I will be back with more Galatea because there are so many different combinations and so many different branching conversations and directions that this story can go in and this game can go in. But for tonight, I think that's probably enough. And yeah, I hope you watching this can understand that, as to why I would feel that this is worth being shared. Again, if you missed any part of it, or if you miss any part in the future, this will all be up on my ASMR channel, which is Good Night, Felicia. I'm Felicia You Dig. That's on YouTube, by the way. So that's where this will be archived. Essentially because it's me reading a story, I feel that this is a good fit for ASMR content. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy future streams. So thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Share if you care. I'll see you. And if you are interested in some different fare that's a bit more, well, gossipy, because it's a gossip, please don't hesitate to subscribe to Viewer's Choice, which is youtube.com/Viewer's Choice 4, like the number all. That's my main channel, so thank you. Alright, thank you for hanging in there with me. Good night, everyone.